My name is Ann Carter Mulligan. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admissions at the Batten School. Thank you so much for joining us for this Wednesday webinar. I am joined by my wonderful colleague, Amanda Crombie. She is the Assistant Dean for Academic Programs at Batten. You'll certainly hear much more from her in just a bit. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is a great turnout. The program tonight is intended to introduce you to the Batten School and prepare you for course enrollment, which, as you know, will occur during your summer orientation session. We will host an information session about Batten on day 2 of orientation, where we'll have an opportunity to talk in more depth about some of the things that I'll touch on today. And I certainly hope you can join us for that. Those programs will take place in our building, Garrett Hall, which you can see on this slide here. So be sure to check your orientation session schedule for further information on timing of that session. So tonight, my game plan is to share a few slides, including information about our school, our programs, courses you can take now, even before joining one of our programs, and then we'll turn to Q&A. So feel free to add your questions at any time using the Q&A box, and we'll get to them in the latter part of the session. Okay, I'm going to dive right in. Let's see. So there are quite a few ways to study public policy at UVA, perhaps even more than you might expect. We like to say at Batten that policy is everywhere. You can study history, economics, computer science, data science, a foreign language. You can be pre-health, you can be pre-law, and you will be well prepared for an eventual career that grapples with public policy in some way. So as you think through courses that you might like to take this fall, before we get started, I wanted to bring your attention to a couple specialized policy majors in the College of Arts and Sciences, in addition to ours, so you can start to seek out more information about them. These are majors to explore, talk over with your academic advisor, your orientation leader, and then of course you can learn more about them when you arrive on grounds in the fall. You will likely hear from your advisors that you can major in one of these programs. You can combine programs in a double major. For example, you could be a Spanish Foreign Affairs double major and then be well prepared for a career in global development. You can design an interdisciplinary major. You can pick up a minor. You can pick up 2 minors. You can major at the Batten School. The combinations are really endless to explore public policy and related fields further at UVA. In fact, you can study virtually anything as an undergraduate major that isn't Batten and then decide to come to Batten later for a Master of Public Policy. So there are lots and lots of options. And the good news is you have some time to explore all of those different options. Batten is an upper school at UVA, meaning students typically join one of our programs in their 3rd or 4th year. This is the general model at UVA, where you explore through your first 2 years while completing your general education requirements, whether you're in the college curriculum or forums, or you're an Eccles Scholar. And then most majors are something you either declare or apply into in your 2nd year. At Batten, our programs, save for one, are application-based and competitive. They focus on leadership, public policy, and equipping you with skills to create impactful, lasting change. Essentially, Batten wants to educate and train the next generation of policy and citizen leaders to act on behalf of the common good. And we do that through a unique focus on both public policy and leadership. So you'll get best-in-class knowledge and access to cutting-edge research about public policy and policy formation. You'll build skills in data analysis. But from the leadership side of the portfolio, we'll also help you learn about how to, say, analyze group behavior, how to negotiate and navigate conflict, how to be a problem solver and an effective communicator and critical thinker. It's a very practical degree that leads to a wide variety of professional outcomes. And I'd say this is a bit of a differentiator from the other policy-related majors that I mentioned. At Batten, you will focus on implementation, on building real-world skills, on applied knowledge rather than theoretical. You will get the theoretical too, but we are a pre-professional school, so we're placing a lot of emphasis on helping you build skills with the goal of future employment. I think it can sometimes be helpful to kind of work backwards from outcomes to start to wrap your hands around what Batten helps prepare you for. So here are some examples of the types of careers, policy-related careers that our graduates embark on. We've got great employment outcomes across a real wide variety of sectors. Batten grads certainly don't only go on to work on Capitol Hill, though many of them do go on to work on Capitol Hill. Roughly 50% of the grads of our graduate program, the Master of Public Policy, end up in government roles in some way. Our BA outcomes are a bit more diverse, with more grads working across sectors or going on to graduate school. Many of our undergrads go into the private sector or consulting, both for the government and the private sector. Our grads enter direct government service, they join business world, they work at nonprofits, research institutions and think tanks, the service organizations, as well as grad school, particularly law school. I'd say in any given year, probably 10% of our undergrads go right into law school. And that number grows certainly after grads build a couple of years of professional experience and then transition to law. We're helping you develop a very transferable skill set for a career in policy or law or business or anything else really. You're developing strong analytical and critical thinking skills. You learn professional writing and project management skills. You are a proficient and persuasive public speaker. Those work wherever you end up next. The top destination for our graduates is Washington, D.C., but we also have grads on Wall Street, in Silicon Valley, working abroad. Just a real brief sampling of first destinations for most recent grads include Deloitte, Accenture Federal Services, multiple federal agencies and Congress, Georgetown, Columbia Law, think tanks like the American Enterprise Institute, the Center for Public Impact, Teach for America, the Richmond Mayor's Office, the New York City Mayor's Office, the UN. We have students who go on to work in journalism, NBC News, NPR, Secret Service, even Major League Baseball. The bottom line is there are a real variety of outcomes. Our grads essentially work across all sectors. Okay, so just briefly, here's a little bit about the programs that are open to you as an undergraduate at UVA. These are the programs where you will earn a degree from the Batten School on this first slide. Our graduate path is the Master of Public Policy. The Accelerated Master of Public Policy is for UVA students who receive an undergraduate degree outside of Batten. So you major in something else, likely in the College of Arts and Sciences. You begin taking a mix of Batten courses in your final undergraduate year. You graduate with that undergrad degree, you do a required summer internship, and then the final year is all graduate work at Batten. Students typically apply into the program in their third year. You have to earn 90 credits prior to joining the school. So it is possible, if you're coming in with a lot of credits, AP, IB, dual enrollment, you can pursue the program on an expedited timeline and walk away from UVA with 2 degrees in 4 years. But if that is of interest to you, I want you to come talk to me early on in your time at UVA, because there are certainly pros and cons to going that route. So let's talk it over if this applies to you. It's a heavily quantitative program. We want to make sure you can use data to advance a position. You'll take courses in behavioral economics, social psychology, research methods, and then the policy areas that you want to study. It's a professional degree, it's rigorous, it's a deep dive into policy and data analysis. It's for students who know they want to go on to work directly within the policy sphere in some fashion. Now, our undergraduate major, if the accelerated program is an immersive deep dive, this is more of a generalist curriculum. It's an interdisciplinary look at policy more from the perspective of effective engagement with the world. You'll take courses in policy and leadership, economic analysis, various multidisciplinary contexts, and then special topics or policy electives where you can study things like education policy or health policy, national security, effective legislation, international development. You have space to explore the policy areas that are most interesting to you. You end up being a good consumer of information. You'll have public policy knowledge, and our hope is we're helping give you the tools for robust participation in public life. If you end up majoring in something else, we also have two minors, a public policy and leadership minor or a social entrepreneurship minor. The PP&L minor, abbreviated, is a good way to supplement your primary major in another school with some policy and leadership. This minor is a broader look at issues in the policy realm with the goal of increasing your fluency in the language of policy and the ways that it intersects with your chosen field of study. And then finally, the SE minor is a pan-university program that allows you to take electives across many different schools at UVA, which is something that's pretty cool. You can take courses in the college, you can take courses at the McIntyre School of Commerce, you can take Batten courses. It's part of the larger entrepreneurship minor that is housed at the McIntyre School. Our particular social track is for students who are interested in things like impact investing, entrepreneurial approaches to global development, equity-based leadership, design thinking, essentially designing innovative solutions to real-world problems. So public policy and leadership is maybe a little bit more formal kind of levers of policy. This is more entrepreneurial in scope. In contrast to our other programs, this is the program I mentioned where any student who applies is able to pursue the minor. So this is a nice open track for any UVA school that, any UVA student who wants to wrap in some Batten coursework. Okay, finally, here is looking forward towards the fall. This is a little bit about classes. These are the prerequisites to our programs. And in fact, they are the only classes you really must take prior to enrolling at Batten. The good news is most of them are also prerequisites for lots of other majors at UVA. So there are credits that kind of count no matter where you end up. The prereqs can be taken all the way up until the semester that you begin at Batten. So if you can't enroll in them this fall, they're full, or your schedule doesn't work, there's no worries. You still have some time. So for the major and the minor in public policy and leadership, you take microeconomics and social psychology. You'll see under social psychology, there's an LPPL course. That is Batten's specific lens on social psych. It's called Foundations of Behavioral Science. It happens to not be on offer in the fall. So if you want to knock out that prerequisite this fall, you'll take Psych 2600. You also have to take Intro to Policy for the BA. For the SE minor, all you have to do is enroll in ENTP 1010, which is a class on startups. And that opens up the entrepreneurship minor to you, and you can pick your track from there. You see the requirements for the accelerated MPP, microeconomics, and a calculus-based math course. This should be a signal to you that this is a quantitative degree. It is possible to use AP credit to fulfill any of the prereqs as they come in as equivalent credits. But for the MPP in particular, we really like to see you take a math course at UVA to demonstrate proficiency and exhibit readiness for graduate level quantitative work. So if you intend to use AP Calc in particular, that's one lots of students have fulfilled, consider these stats courses because they're going to be good foundational knowledge that you will use quite a bit in the accelerated MPP. So there's stats 1100, that's intro to statistics. Stat 2120 is intro to statistical analysis. And then stat 1601 is data science with R. R is a coding language. We actually use Stata at Batten, but if you can pick up the basic building blocks of a coding language, it will suit you well, whether you're working in R or working in Stata. So here is a little bit of advice. Outside of the prerequisites, my general advice for your first few semesters at UVA is to focus on fulfilling your general education requirements and to explore. You really never know what's going to click for you until you give it a try. So I absolutely encourage you to take a wide range of courses. Batten's general education curriculum is the same as the college's. So it's important to continue to make progress towards fulfilling those requirements. In particular, you should knock out your world languages requirement before coming to Batten. Once you are part of the Batten School rather than the College of Arts and Sciences, it becomes more difficult to enroll in those smaller courses. Priority enrollment goes to college students. So take those while you are still a college student. If possible, you should also complete Batten's prerequisites prior to the semester that you apply to Batten. So our applications all fall in the kind of January window before the start of your second spring semester. It's helpful to see grades for those courses on your transcript when you apply. It's a good data point for the admissions committee. Certainly not the end of the world if you can't knock those out, but think about, if that's the case, how you can kind of balance that gap in knowledge for us. I mentioned the AP credit issue. If you are interested in the Excel program, we'd love to see a collegiate level stats course. And then finally on this list, consider taking one of the Batten courses that you are about to hear more about from Dean Crombie. You shouldn't take more Batten courses because you want to be more competitive in application. We like to say that it's more a good answer to the question for you about whether it's the curriculum is a good fit, whether it's something that you'll enjoy, whether it's something that will help you reach your goals. Less helpful to us from an admissions perspective, really good data for you. That said, there are a couple of reasons why you might consider taking more than one or two of these courses. If you are really gung-ho about Batten, you already know you want to study abroad or double major or double minor, you have a lot to fit in your final 2 years at UVA. So you might consider taking more Batten courses to clear space so you can achieve all of those academic goals. You should keep in mind, though, that there is a rule in the College of Arts and Sciences that states you have to complete 108 credits of the 120 required to graduate in the college. So if you end up not coming to Batten and remaining in the college, or say you decide, the minor is more for me, or the accelerated program is more for me, and you have to major in, you will be majoring in something in the college, the Batten coursework that you take will not necessarily count towards those in-college requirements. Something you'll have lots of time to consider along the way, but a compelling reason not to necessarily put all of your eggs in that one basket. Okay, so I'm going to turn things now over to Dean Crombie to talk a little bit about some of the open Batten courses that you can enroll in this fall or in a subsequent semester.
Thanks, Anne. And there is one question in the chat from Reese regarding interest in understanding a bit more about the MPP and the quantitative degree. Reese, we'll get to that question in just a minute, and I will chat with everybody quickly about our fall courses and what we're offering for students to be able to get a little taste of Batten and see what it's really all about at the Batten School. The first course that I would suggest if students are interested in a low bar to entry course that would allow them to see and hear the kind of research and excitement that's happening at Batten would be LPPP 2000. That course is called Batten Showcase, and you see it here on the screen. That course is going to be a wonderful sampling of all of our Batten research faculty and our engagement faculty, sharing with you what it is that they do and how Batten can actually expand your interests and your horizons in the job world in the future. And then the second course that I would suggest is LPPL 2100, Resilient Student. That is a course that helps to build resiliency as students are transitioning into college, but I do still find even fourth years take that class and enjoy it and find different skills that allow them as they're transitioning from college into the work world. But that is a fantastic course to learn a little bit more from our professor, Tim Davis, about resilience and building resilience as you transition into college. Foundational coursework, as Anne mentioned, LPPP 2200, sorry, is the Introduction to Public Policy. That is a requirement for the BA as a prereq, but it is also a minor core course. It's currently waitlisted, but it will be offered again in the spring. So there are seats going to be available in the spring. if you don't get in for the fall. As I said, it's currently waitlisted, and there's a decent waitlist at this point. And then if you're interested in the social entrepreneurship minor, ENTP 1010, the startup course, does actually have seats open and available for the fall. That is an SE minor prereq as well. And then to give you kind of an idea about some other open courses that we have at Batten that would allow you to be able to learn more about different specific areas of interest. The next slide tells you a lot about our special topics classes. So anything from an introduction to social entrepreneurship, if when Anne was talking about the social entrepreneurship minor, you said, wow, a way for me to take entrepreneurship principles and do good for the world and help the common good, that might be a class that you'd be really interested in. Then there are things, everything from terrorism and counterterrorism, global development policy, humanitarian crisis response. The list goes on and you can see it on your screen. There are a few of these courses that also count towards the social entrepreneurship minor and count towards the Batten major and the Batten minor. Those two are listed with stars on your screen. What I would say about any of these courses is that they are going to allow you the chance to really dive deep into a substantive area within Batten that gives you the focus and the ability to say, ooh, I really like this, and it's something I want to learn more about, and then I can do a deeper dive in another class or in the major, and this is where I want to focus my learning.
Okay, so that was a lot of information. You'll have opportunities to hear it again and take it in this fall. Once we resume our regular admissions events and programming, you can certainly come to Batten's orientation session on day 2 of your orientation. The very best way to stay plugged in during the academic year is to use this QR code to fill out an inquiry form, which will enter your information into our system and subscribe you to our weekly newsletter. The newsletter has information about events, it's got helpful tips, it details application deadlines and other important dates. It links to our blog where we post a lot of content. It's really a wealth of information. This fall, we'll host Friday open walk-in office hours where you'll be able to speak with a member of the admissions team or a Batten ambassador who is a current student who can tell you more about their experience in our programs. We also have daily virtual appointments during the regular academic year. We have monthly information sessions. We host special events like Frankapalooza, which is kind of a fun outdoor social event for our school community. This year it had inflatables. I don't know if inflatable bull riding is your thing. If it is, come see us. As we approach application deadlines, we host application workshops so that we can give you one-on-one feedback on different components of your application. There are lots and lots of events that you will hear about through our newsletter or by checking our online event schedule on the web. You are also absolutely feel free to reach out to me anytime. You can use the general email address you see at the bottom. You can reach out to me using my personal address. I try and triage requests and keep Dean Crombie out of the mix so she can focus on supporting our current students. So I am a great place to start if you have a question about anything at all. And to that point, we do have one question. Reese wondered about the quantitative nature of the MPP. And actually, I think, Amanda, maybe you could speak a little bit more in depth about that component of the curriculum to kind of flesh that out.
Sure, happy to, Anne. The question regarding how quantitative the degree is in the MPP, there are 4 specific quantitative courses. So in addition to the prerequisite of Econ 2010 and the math-based calculus course, once you're in the accelerated master's program, there is an econ sequence, econ 1 of public policy and econ 2, as well as a research methods and data analysis 1 and 2. And so that first year is really about building the tools of how you're going to do analysis of public policy and see if policies are affecting people in the way that you would want them to. if policies are actually producing the intended outcome, all of the things that you actually need to be able to do to analyze and use those tools. So it is a very quantitative program in that it has 4, so 12 of the credits are quantitative based. With that said, you also utilize those quant skills throughout the program. So there are, as I said, 4 courses, but ultimately where you're learning those tools, but ultimately you utilize those tools in at least 3 other or 9 other credits of the program. And so quantitative aptitude in that program is incredibly important.
And then in terms of how competitive the admissions process is, once you get to the point where you're considering the MPP, you tend to be a more successful applicant because at that point, you've really clarified your policy interests and your professional goals. You've probably tailored some of your activities towards the goal of obtaining that graduate degree. So you've taken on research opportunities, you've kind of structured your extracurriculars, you have good relationships with your professors. So the admissions rate into our MPP program is one of the higher ones of our competitive programs. It's usually in the 60 to 70% rate. The bachelor's and the minor are, because they're more general, they're more kind of popular, that admissions rate tends to be a little bit lower in the 40 to 50% range. And then SE, of course, is your open track to Batten. So the social entrepreneurship minor is something that you can complete if you wish. Another question, are students in the School of Engineering with a business minor able to participate in Batten? And if so, what are some of the steps to go forward with that? Well, if you're not interested in like sleeping or eating or doing anything outside of pursuing your academic programs, then you could consider a Batten minor only. You cannot double major with another school outside of the College of Arts and Sciences between the BA program and a college major, except for one single program in the education school, which is the Youth and Social Innovation major. So can't double major with engineering. I don't know that we've ever had, and maybe Amanda can give me a head nod, anyone who's gone engineering to Excel MPP, because the engineering program is so structured. It's in some cases 5 years. It's really hard to fit in additional credits into the end of your undergraduate degree. So the minor might be a possibility. That said, I'm not sure we've even ever had anyone do that. I think you may run into just kind of running out of room in your academic schedule to log the credits. But I'm happy to do the math with you. We can kind of sit down and take a look at your curriculum and see if it's a possibility. All right. If I am a prospective PP&L major, would being in Batten mean that I'm a Bachelor of Public Policy and Leadership? Would these mean that I am a PPL major? So a PPL is a separate major in the college, politics, philosophy, and law. There's another P in there somewhere. That is very confusingly very similar to our public policy and leadership acronym. So I'm sorry, I led you astray there. Batten has one major. It is the undergraduate major that leads to a Bachelor of Arts in Public Policy and Leadership. So your school of enrollment would be the Batten School rather than the college. Your degree would say Batten School, I think. Amanda, is that right? Does it say the Batten School in it? Yeah, so you would officially be a Batten major.
Zoe, we have had students complete both the Batten major as well as the PPL major, but because they are both incredibly competitive majors, it causes a challenge with actually being able to get all of the classes that you need, also because they're small. And so that I would say is the one thing that you would have a challenge with if you were interested in double majoring between PPL and then the public policy and leadership major within Batten.
Do we have any additional questions?
There was one question regarding study abroad that I
Oh,
inadvertently clicked on, but I answered in the chat otherwise, and I want to make sure everybody can see that and it doesn't just go to the one attendee. And that the answer is yes, you can study abroad while you are in Batten. Traditionally, students study abroad in the spring of the third year, but it's probably best to schedule an appointment with our admissions folks and Anne to kind of chart a path forward on that.
good question. What considerations should we make in deciding whether to major at Batten in the undergraduate major or do the accelerated Master of Public Policy? Or do people pursue both? Yes, people do consider going both routes. I would say because the accelerated master's relies on developing some of those hard data skills that really equip you to like roll up your sleeves and do the work and use data on a daily basis in a professional capacity. If you already know that that's you and you want to go out and you want to work on Capitol Hill, you want to work for an advocacy group where you'll be using data, those quantitative skills will be more helpful to you, then that might be a better route. The BA program is more global in scope. It's less directly public policy oriented. That said, we do have a handful of students who start out in the BA, kind of get their toes wet, realize through taking some of the BA curriculum that they're ready for grad school or their professional goals have really gotten much clearer and they're ready to go to grad school and study public policy. In that case, you could apply to the accelerated Master of Public Policy, but you need to be in a position where you could then have a major in the College of Arts and Sciences. So very, very easy for someone who's double majoring to do that. Maybe a little bit more difficult depending on your credits to go back and figure out your college major and then shift to the accelerated program. Amanda, do you have anything to add on that point?
No, I think you covered that one.
Okay. Batten is, the presentation said Batten was practical, applied to the real world. Could you elaborate on what that means in terms of the coursework that you take?
I am happy to elaborate a little bit on that, Calvin. So we really work toward, you get a lot of theoretical information, but in college, and then how do you actually take that and move it into your real world application? So we have a lot of courses that will work with real live case studies, that will work with community partners. We have different lab courses where we will partner with a community member and be able to do different work within to help them and to support what it is their policies that they're trying to advocate for. Or we have groups that we work with where there's a pot of money and funding and people have to work through which of the nonprofits in town actually they would advocate that or they would allocate that money toward. And so there's applications in that way. Within your core coursework, it is really about studying current policies and working in the current environment civically and making sure that students know how to engage civically. In our undergraduate course or in our undergraduate curriculum, there is a course called Lead from Anywhere. The goal of that course, it's in the spring of the fourth year. The goal of that course is really to take students from the classroom into the community. And how do they engage civically? How do they actually start to become a part of the community that they are living and working in? And how do they actually advocate for change for either policies or different organizations and things that they would want to be able to support?
The culminating project to the accelerated Master of Public Policy is in fact an applied policy project, and Amanda hinted, Dean Crombie hinted at this. But in that class, you actually serve as a consultant with an organization to solve some public problem that they're having. So the real emphasis is kind of developing those real world chops so that you can start to advance policy positions in your graduate program and then in the working world when you leave it. How should transfer students approach the Batten School admissions process? That's also a great question. If you are a first or a second year transfer, you would go through the regular admissions process. You would apply via the regular major application that will open in January in the spring of your second year. If you are a third year transfer, I don't know if anyone's in that population bucket. The only programs that would be open to you are one of the two Batten minors or possibly the Accelerated Master of Public Policy, though it is a little tricky because you've come in with 60 credits. You have a short amount of time to knock out the 60 credits required for your undergraduate degree. That might not allow for taking additional graduate level coursework. So if you're in that boat, and even if you're a first or second year transfer and you're kind of, in some ways playing catch up to students who've had more time on grounds, who've established their networks, I really encourage you to dive in, get involved, look for extracurriculars that meet your passions and your interests so you can start to demonstrate leadership in those areas. Get to know your faculty, dive right in the classroom so that you can start to build that academic network of support. And definitely come talk to me and I can kind of help you crunch the numbers and make suggestions about what you can do to be successful in the application process. Is it possible to pursue selective major programs such as, that's the other P, political philosophy, policy, and law, and then pursue the Accelerated Master of Public Policy, or do the application timelines and workloads of the two programs conflict? We definitely have students who have pursued competitive majors join the Accelerated MPP. The application timelines sync up, they work out well. You're very savvy in identifying one potential barrier, which might be workload. If you are moving in a direction where you're doing like a distinguished majors thesis, or you have a capstone, that final undergraduate year for you might be a heavier academic lift, and it might be tricky. Knowing your own propensity for how much pain, how much tolerance you have, to also be taking really quantitative graduate level coursework too. So we're happy to see if the kind of credit math works, but I think it also requires a little bit of introspection about how much you think you can take on. All right, how many MPP students tend to pursue a career in law? I would say that's a less common path than students who pursue our undergraduate major and then pursue a career in law or go to law school. That said, I think there were 2 MPP students last year. I'm looking at Amanda for confirmation, who went on to really prestigious law programs. So it's kind of a question of how many terminal graduate degrees do you want or do you think you need? The MPP is certainly not necessarily geared towards getting you into law school, but more kind of readying you for a policy career. If law is part of that goal for you, it's certainly something that some students do. Far greater number of students go from the major into a career in law. So I talked a little bit about how competitive it is to get into the master's program. That's a 60 to 70% admissions rate. And then it looks like Amanda is typing an answer. I'll go ahead and read the question. Is it possible to complete the MPP program in 4 years instead of 5 if a student is an Eccles Scholar and has more flexibility in their schedule? Do you want to speak to that one, Amanda?
Sure. I essentially said it really depends on how many credits you come in with to UVA to see if that's really a possibility. I always suggest anyone who is interested in what we call the accelerated track. So that would be someone who completes the accelerated master's degree in 4 years, that they come and see our admissions team in the fall of the first year so that you can actually start to see if that plan and that kind of course map could plot out for you and see if that's a really if that's something you want to take on, because it's something you actually have to start to plan in the first year to be able to do all in 4 years.
All right, we're running towards the end of our allotted time. So if you have any last minute questions, feel free to drop those now. I think the major takeaway for you today is if you want to be at Batten, if it is really appealing to you to build hard skills and develop soft skills so you can go on to create change in the world, I really want to help you with that goal. The earlier you come and talk to me, the more advice I can give you, the more I have the ability to connect you with members of the student community who can give you that more qualitative side of what it's like to go to Batten, what their own goals are. So as early as you can in your time at UVA when you arrive this fall, I'd love to get to know you and kind of continue the conversation. This recorded Zoom will be available on the orientation website. So there's a left sidebar Wednesday webinar link. Right now, there's a pre-health seminar there. There will also in time be this Batten seminar as well. And I think that's it. Please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you, Dean Crombie, for your time tonight. Thank you all for joining, and I hope to get to know you this fall. And congratulations, we're so excited you're coming to join us at UVA. Thanks all.